Welcome back to another weekly Forex forecast, traders. As always, we will start with the US dollar index, the most important thing to look at in my opinion. On the weekly time frame, we will do a full top-down analysis here and recap. We almost contacted a weekly area of supply up in the 110 areas back pretty much at the start of 2025. Fell down, created supply zones as we targeted liquidity. But now, if you notice these black dots, this right here represents an overall monthly demand zone. If you've been following my forecast for the past months, I've been talking about this monthly demand zone. We did have two levels. We had a weekly level here and a weekly zone or level down below at 96.87. I've been saying I think it's possible, since we broke this one, after already getting a nice reaction off it, I think it's possible we do see dollar weakness to retrace down to that weekly demand before rallying up. So I am expecting to see some dollar strength here, but I definitely think we will be hesitating around the supply, and I'm kind of questioning if we can even get above it or not. So as far as a long-term perspective goes, we are still expecting the DXY to continue to fall midterm as long as this daily downward trend line is holding. So we need to monitor this daily downward trend line. It has been very close to breaking multiple times now. So if we do break out of this trend line, that is definitely a bullish sign. And what that is telling me is that the monthly demand that I was talking about is now in control, and it is taking over and ending that daily downward trend, which would be bullish for the dollar. It doesn't mean you can't look for longs right now on the dollar. Even on the 4-hour chart, I mean, we had nice supply above, reacted off of it multiple times. Nice 4-hour downward trend. That downward trend line was removed by a demand zone down at 98.20. So we kind of have an interesting chart here on the 4-hour chart. It's pretty clear what is taking place. Remember, we're not going to be super bullish on the dollar until we can remove that daily downward trend line that I was just talking about. But we were so close to breaking it that what we could see take place is simply a pullback down to this 4-hour demand zone at 98.20 and then a rally up to the upside. So that is what we're going to be monitoring, this area of demand, if we pull back to it to see if it holds. If it breaks, to me guys, that's most likely that we're going to create a supply zone and continue to drop if this demand zone ends up breaking. So I'm going to be watching this area of demand on the 4-hour chart. I'm also going to be watching this supply zone. If we remove this supply, it is very significant for this reason alone, because we have a supply zone up here that's removed that's been tested like 5-6 times. So that's a very key area of supply in my opinion. So if that does get taken out, any demand zone there is going to be decent for a potential pullback to start to enter on some long trades on the DXY. Now on the 1-hour chart here, we had a nice 1-hour trend to the upside, pretty much picture perfect. It was actually a very rare 3-point touch point trend line. That trend line was removed by a supply level above at 99.02. It's not a great supply zone, as in it's pretty obvious. It just removed the trend line. It's not bad. It was created during when the market was quote unquote closed. So I don't know. I'm kind of taking it with a grain of salt. We could see maybe a small move off of it before we end up breaking it. So just to have this zone on your chart, I think it's important, because we definitely could see, like I said, some downward pressure on the dollar before we end up rallying out of it, because it's not the best supply zone I've ever seen. Therefore, I think we could actually end up breaking it. And like I said, we have higher time frame demand zones in control. So I am expecting the daily downward trend line to break, but who knows? We could be pulling back down to that 4-hour area of demand at 98.20 that I was talking about first here on the DXY. Alrighty, on to the forecast for the Euro US dollar. Full top-down approach here on the weekly time frame. Recently just removed a very proven area of weekly supply. That was removed by this area of demand down at 1.09. So a pullback down this demand could definitely be on the table. It's a good pullback. I like the zone. I like zones that are in the middle of the move like that. I know it's kind of controversial, but I don't care. I've been doing this for 5 years. I know what I'm looking for. So I like that weekly zone. This thing is really not even showing signs of it slowing down. Obviously, it's the opposite of the DXY. So on the daily chart, we have a DXY downward trend, and we're actually testing the trend line, where here on the euro, we're pretty far away from it. So honestly, that could be evidence to suggest we could continue to go up, and it's looking like the euro is continuing its strength here. So we have a couple of options. If you want to get aggressive with longs, we do have a demand zone down below. Obviously, it's the opposite of that DXY supply I was talking about. It's not bad at 114. If you're bullish, we could see a move off that zone. It's really that simple. It removed a downward trend line. It's not bad. So that's what I'd be waiting for potential longs. On the 4-hour chart, the better long entry is down below at some of these 4-hour zones, but that's probably for another video. It's so far away that it's not really likely we get a pullback down there this week. But this past week, we actually removed this upward trend line on the 4-hour time frame, and that left us with a nice little supply zone up at 1.155. So with that supply zone up above, we definitely could see move off this supply. It's a key zone that removed an upward trend. So it's definitely a good supply. If we are going to see a pullback on the euro, if we are going to see that pullback, it's going to be off of this supply, in my opinion, guys. It's really that simple. So that is our supply zone for a potential short trade. It is counter trend to the daily and to the weekly. So I'm not saying we're going to get a move all the way down, all the way down there. Since it is counter trend, you might want to only target the opposing low here, guys. What you could also be doing is looking for confirmation trades, which means you wait for the zone to be hit, and then you would look for shorts with supply zones on a 15-minute time frame. And that is what we'll be doing throughout the week during the daily market breakdown video for the members once we do contact this 4-hour area of supply. If you want to trade alongside myself and the community, join the Diamond membership for exclusive access to our daily market breakdown videos and catch trades like these. Plus, dive deep with our full-length forecast covering 26 plus markets, our interactive Sunday Zoom sessions, and personal homework to sharpen your strategy. And you'll also join our private Discord group for direct access to me and unlock a complete library of A to Z video lessons to master supply and demand trading. Don't miss out. Let's level up your trading. Links are in the description down below. So I would have this supply zone on my charts for potential shorts on the 4-hour chart. And look, if we remove this supply, that is going to be a key demand zone that removes it. So it'll be a great long opportunity. That's why I always tell you guys, subscribe to see what takes place, because I'll be waiting for that supply to be removed as well to continue to look for longs with the overall daily and the overall weekly trend to the upside. So right now, really all going to revolve around that key 4-hour area of supply on the euro US dollar. Alrighty, on to the forecast for gold. So you can see we had a downward trend line. That trend line was removed. Now we have a lot of upward momentum as we potentially push to the all-time highs again on gold. I don't know. This, to me, it looks like there's some sort of flag pattern here. Maybe let me know in the comments down below. Is there a flag pattern here? I don't look at chart patterns, but maybe there is. Maybe that could cue or signal that we could be pushing up, guys. It's just a possibility. All I know is that there's a great weekly demand zone down below. And from my experience, guys, I've been doing this for 5 years. Supply and demand zones kind of act like magnets. So we definitely could see a pullback down to that weekly demand. And I would definitely welcome a pullback down there. I would love that, because everybody's going to think gold's falling off the cliff. It's going to be, oh, gold's so stupid, dumb. What a dumb, shiny object, right? And then everyone's going to be selling it and thinking it's stupid. And this is where we buy it and we profit. So I like that weekly zone. Down below there on gold, we have a couple of options here on the 4-hour chart. We did remove this upward trend line. We do have a demand zone down below. It's so close to being tested, but it's still fresh, in my opinion, at 33.36. We definitely could see a move off that zone. It's making me a little bit nervous because of how close it tested it, but clearly there's some demand down here as we've wicked so close to it. So in my opinion, that is our dip buying opportunity at 33.36. Again, if you don't feel comfortable with an entry and a stop loss and take profit, you could just look for confirmation in there. And sure, you might miss out on the trade, but it might prevent you from taking a loss as well. And you're confirming your entry. It's not a cheat code, guys. It's just there's pros and cons. A confirmation is never a cheat code. It's just simply there's pros and cons to it all. Over here on the 1-hour chart, we do kind of have some sort of trend to the downside. I'm very specific with how I draw my trend lines. I think that it's decent enough to consider that a trend line, and if that trend line is there, then we have a demand zone down below that removed that trend line. So we have two fresh zones on the 1-hour chart. We have a 1-hour supply above at 34.15, and we have our fresh demand at 33.49. So if you are bullish, this would be our demand zone potential long opportunity on the 1-hour chart. If you think we're going to pull back down to that weekly demand that I was talking about, if you think gold's going to fall off a cliff, the only thing I'd be doing for shorts at this time is one, either waiting for this demand to be removed, hopefully leaving us with a supply zone to get in short at, or wait for a pullback above all this liquidity here at 34.15 and look for a potential short off that supply zone. Now look at the time. It's been quite a ways since price has pulled back to the supply zone, and this supply zone would be counter trend to the higher time frames, guys. So if you are going to trade short at this supply, I don't think you should look for a 10-to-1 trade. I know most people don't do that. I'm just making a point of be aggressive with your profit taking, because it's been so far since prices pulled back to this supply and it is counter trend. Alrighty, on to the forecast for the USDJPY. We've been talking about this weekly support trap here, and I was thinking we were going to be targeting this liquidity. Doesn't look like it. To me, it looks like we're starting to rally up here. So at this point, I don't think we are going to be targeting this liquidity anytime soon. What I think we could be seeing take place. So we're going to do kind of a bottom up here. On the 1 hour chart, we did create a 1 hour trend to the upside. So I was telling all of the members, guys, we should be continuing to look for longs on a 5-minute chart as long as this trend line is being respected. And just huge shout out to some of the members this past week who had amazing trading week. Many great trades from some of the members this week. So happy to see that. Had to give them a shout out. So you could be looking for longs on this 1 hour chart as long as or on a 5-minute time frame, as long as the 1 hour chart continues to trend up. On the 4 hour chart, we have a significant trend to the upside. However, we are kind of still in this overall range. If we highlight it here, we are still in this range. However, with higher highs being formed here, to me, it looks like we are going to break out of this range. Now, the time I record these videos, guys, we still have 50 minutes left for this candle to close. I have a family. I like to do these videos early instead of doing it late on a Friday night. So still 50 minutes left. What I will say is a break above this high, we definitely could see some sort of liquidity trap here, but it's going to be a pretty bullish sign, guys. So that's kind of the next thing we want to see. A breakout out of this range would make this trend even stronger and even more believable. And what that could signal is potentially a pullback all the way up to this daily supply at 149.29, where we can then see a move to the downside. And what I would absolutely love to see is another reaction off of this resistance trap to really prove there are stop loss liquidity up here and see a move like that. This is like the dream move. And like I said, if we break that significant high in the 4 hour chart, that is definitely going to be evidence to suggest we could be pulling up to this, at least to target this liquidity and up to that supply zone where we can then get a nice swing trading short trade off of. So that's what I'm going to be watching here on the USDJPY. I'm going to be watching the 1 hour trend to the upside to see if it can continue to hold, see if we can break out of that range. And then as a swing trader, I'll be waiting for that daily supply up above at 149.29 to look for potential shorts in that supply. Alrighty, on to the forecast for the GBPUSD. We were talking about the supply zone, and this supply zone is very old. It wasn't even really a great zone anyways. I'm not surprised to see at least a small move off of it, right? I am definitely not saying we're going to get a pullback all the way down to the demand, but we do have a supply zone that's controlled that is currently holding up price. I do personally think it is going to be removed, and the reason being is because this trend line is still holding on the daily chart. But as we get closer and closer, the more nervous I get, and then we will be monitoring if the trend line is going to break or if it's going to hold. And this will kind of give us our higher time frame and our lower time frame direction once we do that. Now, we actually got a beautiful trading setup off of this 1 hour area of supply up above at 1.35 right here. This trade was called out in the daily market breakdown video for the members, and I don't know how much more we're going to get out of this trade. The reason being is because this is kind of a zone in the middle of the move. Now, zones in the middle of the move is definitely something we touch on in the supply and demand full course PDF, which comes with the membership as well. So lots of info in there. If you guys are interested, comes with the membership. Lifetime access is available for that. So that's why with this trade, I don't mind taking profits right now because it's just a trade in the middle. Sorry, it's just a zone kind of in the middle of the move. It's kind of a hidden zone. So the trade kind of already worked out. We definitely could see price start to rally back up again. That is kind of that's kind of what I am thinking. And what we definitely could see take place is a pullback all the way up to this 4 hour supply at 1.352. This is where I think we could see the bigger move. So that 1 hour zone, it's kind of just in the middle of the move. We already got a nice move off of it. It might be time to take some profits. This 4 hour supply, this is where we could see the big move take place. And we actually even have a demand zone from way back here. This demand zone removed an upper trend line, or sorry, a downward trend line. It is a good demand zone. This could be viewed as our profit margin to the downside as well at 1.33, where we can then get a move to the upside. So for now, we need to wait for these 4 hour supply zones to be contacted for the highest odds trading situation. We already got the 1 hour supply trade working out right now, and we need to monitor the daily trend on the GBPUSD. All right, guys, on to the forecast for the USDCAD. When price was sitting right here and we based out with this candle, I was talking about this weekly demand. I was saying we are most likely headed down to this weekly demand. You can go back to March and April. I was talking about this weekly demand. You can watch my forecast from back then, I've had this demand zone since it was created back in September 2024. Now we are getting a nice reaction off of that area of demand, and I am not surprised at all. And more importantly, on the daily chart, okay, we still have 45 minutes, guys, but I'm going to remove this right now. We have just removed a daily downward trend line. That is very, very significant, guys. I cannot stress that enough. So we have a couple of options here. Remember, yes, we are falling off a cliff. It might feel like you are kind of, catching a falling knife, but it doesn't really feel like you're catching a falling knife when we have our multiple time frame analysis telling us to go long. So it's catching a falling knife in the right spot, in my opinion. So we have many, many options here. On the 4-hour chart, we have this 4-hour downward trend line that was removed with this demand zone at 1.36. It's kind of a large zone, so we definitely could see a move off this 4-hour zone. Again, it's a large zone, so your risk reward is going to be a little bit worse from a zone like this. So what you could be doing is waiting for 15-minute confirmation inside of this zone. And what that is essentially it's double confirmation, because remember, guys, this is a confirmation trade. Why is it a confirmation trade? Because we have a weekly demand in control right here, and we have our entry time frame. So with a weekly chart, we enter on an H4. This is confirmation trading 101. We have our confirmation by removing the downward trend line. So this is our confirmation trade on the USDCAD as we come off of this overall higher time frame demand zone. Again, it's a wide zone, so you might want to look for extra confirmation in there. That's why if you did that, it'd be double confirmation. This is a high quality 4-hour demand zone because of the higher time frames. So that's one option. The second option, we have a 1-hour zone. This is a little bit risky because this 1-hour zone is pretty much just a 1-hour zone inside of the 4-hour zone. So it is just a way to narrow down your entry, guys. We could see a move off that zone. It makes me a little bit nervous when there's a 1-hour zone. Sometimes you might want to just have your stop below the 4-hour zone. But at the end of the day, that is our 1-hour zone for potential trading setup inside of that area of demand on the 4-hour chart. Now, I'm pretty sure we just removed this high. Yes, we did. So what that means is we actually have a new 1-hour trend to the upside. So we have another potential option here for trading, especially since the weekly demand's in control. A 1-hour upward trend is definitely a great sign. So as long as this trend line's holding, 5-minute time frame longs are going to be completely fine here on the USDCAD. So monitor this trend line. As long as that's holding, 5-minute time frame longs are good. This is our 1-hour area of demand that's embedded inside of our overall 4-hour area of demand, and that 4-hour area of demand represents our confirmation as we come off of our higher time frame weekly area of demand. Alrighty, on to the forecast for the AUDUSD. There's not a lot going on here on the weekly chart. I will agree that the overall momentum is down, but the short-term momentum is up. So this is a very, very tricky chart to be trading, even on the daily chart. The poor quality of the chart is well represented here. It is very difficult to be trading in a range like this. I'll be honest with you guys, there hasn't been too many setups here on the Aussie USD. This represents you guys having to be patient, and a good way to be patient is to just trade other pairs. It's really that simple. If you guys want help with trading patience and more psychology aspect of trading, check out my Stoic Trading Psychology podcast, available anywhere you get your podcasts. Lots of valuable information. I could give you guys trading signals, say buy down here, sell up here. Halfway through, you're going to be in profit, and you might not be able to hold because of your trading psychology. So that's why it's important. It's a big aspect of trading. That's why I have that podcast. So as far as the Aussie goes right now, we do have nice downward trends here, guys. I don't love to do this, and I'm not going to explain why, but I'm going to draw a trend line here, and I'm going to cut through that candle. Again, I'm not going to get into detail here, but we have a significant downward trend. You could continue to look for shorts. As long as this 1-hour downward trend line is holding on a 5-minute chart, I think that's completely reasonable. On the 4-hour chart, I mean, what do we even do here, right? The supplies and above is very tested. It wasn't even a trade anyways because the supply was created after the fact. I'm not going to get into detail on that. So it was not even a trade. I'm not going to sit there and pretend it was. There's just not a lot going on here. It's actually really, really poor quality. So all we have going for us on the Aussie is a 1-hour downward trend, which could be looking for shorts on a 5-minute time frame. Some of you might ask, why don't you just do a different pair, Kevin? Because this is what I trade throughout the entire week. And it's a great, valuable lesson to look at all the to look at all the charts and be like, wow, there's a nice setup on the euro and the pound, and there's nothing on the Aussie, and that's fine. So this week I'm going to focus on the Aussie, and I'm not going to, or I'm going to focus on the pound, and I'm not going to trade the Aussie and force trades in a terrible market. So that's why I keep it as a valuable lesson for you guys to remain patient and only trade the markets that are making sense to you. If you are not opening up a chart and seeing your setup pretty much immediately, there's pretty much nothing there. Alrighty, on to the forecast. For the USD Swiss, we have a fresh area of weekly demand all the way back here. This was created many years ago, back in 2011, but it is a weekly demand that we could see kind of bottom out here and react. So we definitely still have profit margin to the downside. We have to monitor the lower time frames. I know the daily chart's not a lower time frame, guys, but it is lower to the weekly. And what I see here is a significant downward weekly trend, or sorry, daily trend. It is looking really weak in my opinion. Now, on the 4-hour chart, it was looking very weak here as well. We had a very nice downward trend line. Things were looking positive, as in, you know, price was continuing to go down. That all changed when we removed this trend line. And that trend line was removed by a demand zone down below. Not my favorite area of demand, but there is demand down there. So if you are bullish and you think that this entire trend's going to come to an end, or you think we could just maybe see a small 1-to-1, 2-to-1 move, that is our demand zone long entry at 0.80. Again, it is counter trend to the higher time frames, guys, so you have to be very cautious with a zone like that. We also have a supply zone up above at 0.829. It's a very large zone, because if you look, a typical zone, so this zone right here, let's see how many pips it is. Let's just say 25 pips. So 25 pip zone for the supply, it would look something like this. But it's double that, right? It's like 50 pips almost. So your risk reward all the way down to the low it's a 5-to-1 is fantastic, but it's a large zone. So what you could be doing is looking for extra confirmation there on the day trading timeframes. I think that would be fair. So a couple 4-hour zones here on the USD Swiss that we could be focusing on. And over on the 1-hour chart, we had a 1-hour trend line that was removed by a 1-hour area of supply above at 0.82. I'm not saying we're going to get a massive move off this supply, guys, but we definitely could see a move off that zone. I would definitely have it on your charts. It is a key zone that removed the upper trend line. And honestly, it is with the daily trend, and it is with the daily and the weekly trend. So honestly, we could see it would be fine to expect a larger move off of that demand zone. The only thing that makes me worried is that we have a better 4-hour supply above. So could be playing both the 4-hour supply zones and the 1-hour supply zones. And then if you're feeling a little bit risky, 1-hour demand zone down below for maybe a quick move here on the USD Swiss. Alrighty, last but not least, we're on to the forecast for crude oil. I want to know your thoughts on crude oil. What do you think is going to happen with this? Do you think we're going to explode to the upside with everything going on? Let me know. All I see is the technical analysis here. We have a nice weekly downward trend line that is definitely being respected. We actually might have to update a trend line here. I do not think it's going to really change too much, but that actually is the updated trend line there. My mistake. But again, nothing really has changed. We definitely could see this trend line respected to pull back down to this weekly demand, which I represent as a very good demand zone at 63.33. I think it's a great zone to look for swing trading opportunities in. With this weekly downward trend line in control, it is tricky to suggest what is going to take place right now. I don't really see any fresh zones until we hit that weekly demand zone, guys. It's kind of unfortunate for potential longs, but some of the Dime members know we caught both of these trades on the 4-hour chart. Picture perfect. Oil the last couple weeks has been perfect for me for trading. Absolutely have nailed it. I mean, I nailed a quick short here, and I nailed both demand zone longs and a 1-to-1 here. Anyways, it's been great. Those trades have already kind of played out, so we might have already gotten these moves off of oil. So all we can do now is continue to look for longs on a 15-minute chart, as long as we can keep up this trend. If we really start to pull back and create lower lows and stuff, then we kind of got to hold off on the day trading longs. And very similar to some of the other zones we've seen for supply, we do have a 1-hour area of supply above at 76.48. Yeah, we could see a move off that supply. Again, with the downward trend line in control, yeah, it definitely could play out. So this is kind of our key level right now. This is our key zone. That is our supply zone for potential short trades. If we can go ahead and remove that supply, any demand is going to be significant and could definitely represent a good demand zone for potential long. So that's what I'm hoping for. I think oil could continue to be bullish here, so I'm waiting for some supply zones to be removed, but I don't mind a potential short trade up there if you think that that downward trend line is going to be respected, and maybe we could see a retracement down to weekly demand here on crude oil. If you want to watch the full-length forecast and get my daily chart analysis and daily market breakdown videos, join the Diamond membership. Links are in the description down below.